Hey everyone, Colorwind here, and welcome to the pilot video version of my gaming landscape. This is the first time I'm doing this on camera. For those of you who didn't catch my update video on the channel, this is a new feature that I'm going to be putting on my channel now that I'm taking from my blog. My gaming landscape is a feature where I talk about the games that I've been playing and games that I've picked up within the last month. This first episode is a little bit of catch up since I haven't done this since November 4th. So I'm going to be covering things that I've picked up and played since November 5th. And this is January the 3rd as I'm recording this. So I'm technically going to be covering most of November, maybe not the first 4 days, but most of November and all of December. In the future, I hope to have a bit more graphics and gameplay to show you, but because this is sort of a new idea, I don't have any of that kind of stuff prepared, and because I'm covering such a long period of time, I wouldn't be able to really put this together and edit it in a timely fashion if I were to do that in this video. So as of right now, this is just sort of a vlog, and hopefully it'll get better. We'll see what happens. But let's just get right to it. And I have a little list here on my phone, and we'll go through the games that I managed to acquire first, because it usually goes a little faster. First game I bought was back in November. I got the Spiral Reignited Trilogy. I beat all 3 of those games and completed them. I'll get to that later about when I talk about the games that I've been playing. There was a sale right before all the huge winter sales, and I think it was a Thanksgiving sale or something, and through that I picked up Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. By the way, this is all PlayStation 4, unless I tell you otherwise. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider 20th year celebration, Murdered Soul Suspect, Burnout Paradise Remastered, Diablo 3 Eternal Collection, Overwatch Legendary Edition, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster, Samurai Showdown 1, 2, and 3. It was a big sale, and I happened to have some money, so I went ham. I also picked up a fairly cheap copy of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare with the Modern Warfare 4 Modern Warfare Remastered included with it, so Call of Duty 4. And I got that off Amazon. I got it, and it was a freaking Spanish version of the game, but luckily the game itself is still all in English, so it's just the packaging. There it is. You can see in the back there, it's in Spanish, but luckily the game itself is still in English, so I don't care. Moving on real quick, because the 360 had a sale, the Xbox had a sale, and I don't really touch that stuff because I still only have my 360. I don't have an Xbox One, but they did have Panzer Dragoon Order on sale, and that game is awesome. So it still works on the 360, so I picked it up. The winter sale then came up, and then through that I picked up a few more games. I almost finished the Samurai Showdown games by picking up Samurai Showdown 5 Special, Samurai Showdown 6, once again this is on PlayStation 4, The Last Blade 2, Metal Slug Anthology, Psychonauts, Destroy All Humans, Garou, Mark of the Wolves, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, Titanfall 2, Shadow the Colossus, and then on the PlayStation 3 via PlayStation 1 Classics, I got almost the entire series on the PlayStation 1. I got Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider 2, Tomb Raider 3, and Tomb Raider The Last Revelation. Oh, and I also, from that same sale, got Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Metal Gear Solid, and Metal Gear Solid 2 HD. So, the winter sale, I did pretty well, even if I didn't pick up a whole lot of new games. And that was because at the time I didn't expect myself to be able to do that. Okay, finally, the last thing I was able to get is for Christmas itself, Ni no Kuni, the Premiere Edition. There it is, all nice and lovely. Got Red Dead Redemption 2, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I flipped over the cover so you can see that. Let me see, get rid of the glare. Yeah. And also with the reverse cover, Data Boy. or God of War as it's actually called. Now, I have not jumped into all these games. I've yet to play Ni no Kuni 2 or Spider-Man. But I have played God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2, but you'll only hear about God of War in a little bit because Red Dead Redemption 2 is brand new and I literally just started it a day ago, so got nothing to say about that yet. Finally though, from my other mother, I got a Super Nintendo Classic, which I'm very happy about. It's right over there, but it's all hooked up and everything, so I'm not going to bring it over. But I also got Yakuza 0. I'm a big fan of the Yakuza game, so this is a nice get. And with that, that's all the pickups that I had for November and December. Quite a lot. Normally I don't get that many, but then again, this is sort of normal when Christmas time comes around. Alright, let's get into the games that I actually played. I'm going to rapid fire a lot of these because a lot of these games I only touched very briefly, and therefore I don't have too much to say. For example, we begin with Darksiders War Mastered Edition on the PlayStation 4. Now, you may have seen me play this because I played this live on Twitch. However, you also may not have heard me because it was completely messed up. I decided to start my playthrough of that game for my new show, The Backlog Purge, in this version being The Backlog Purge Live. But because of those technical issues, I scrapped that footage and I plan on restarting my playthrough later on this year, probably next week. That'll probably be the first game I stream. As a result though, I only got in the very beginning of the game, around the time when you have to, travel a bit, and you never really got to a dungeon. I never got to a dungeon. So I've played parts that I've played before, and once again, it's repetitive, but it's fine. I feel like I need to play a little bit more to have more of a solid opinion though. And that's kind of the point too, because I have not played through that game. I have not played even a lot of it. I've only gone through the first dungeon. So I'm looking forward to really getting into the meat of that game. Soul Calibur 6. Once again, Soul Calibur 6 continues to be a good game in my opinion, but not really something that grabs me. The gameplay is good, but because of all the concessions that they made for a more casual audience, I am finding myself feeling like the combat is also, while it's solid, it's also lacking variety. And it's because a lot of the moves that the characters had were taken out for some of these casual effects. So once again, I've mentioned the critical edge move and the break attacks and all that stuff, and it's always marked to a certain button combination. And as a result, some button combinations that used to be used for other moves in previous Soul Calibur games are now just not there anymore. I'm sure I'm going to come back to it at some point. It's not a bad game, but it's not really hooking me, and I feel like that's because of some of the casual stuff that they did there. And to be clear, I don't mind having mechanics in any kind of game to bring in more people and to simplify things, but I have a problem with that when you do it at the expense of taking out depth and variety. Far Cry 4, I played this game for about a day, and I had bought it after I'd done the Rented Games Live episode for it way back like a year or two ago, but I never picked it up. And I was planning on playing through that, but I didn't get far, and it ended up not grabbing me because I ended up getting caught up in the next game that I started playing, which was the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. I've been looking forward to this collection almost all year, ever since I heard about it essentially. And I got it, I picked it up, I played through it, I 100%ed all of the games, I got all the trophies, and it's a fantastic collection. The platforming is even better than it used to be in the original trilogy on the PlayStation, and it's because Spyro turns a lot more, what's the word, I guess, responsively. Before it kind of felt like he was kind of moving on an axis like this, and possibly because, Spyro is a dragon and he is four-legged. But in this game, they made it so that he just kind of pivots, like someone with four legs would be able to do if they were more ambidextrous, I guess. and it makes controlling them just feel a whole lot better. You never feel like you have to get stuck and you have to turn around and it feels cumbersome like that. You do have moments where you have to do that, but it feels a lot better. The charging feels more like you're out of control, but at the same time it still retains some of its weight, so it still doesn't feel like you have no control at all. I feel like maybe that's for the best, because then you can just have the feeling of someone charging forward, which is what is actually happening. And if you were to do that in real life, you would probably not really know what you're doing. You'd be a little out of it. You'd be a little blind to what it is you're actually doing. So that's a change that's for the better and also for the worse, depending on how you want to look at it. The flame feels better. There's still a small window where if you do the flame attack with the enemy right by you, that they won't get hit, because the flame spreads out this way, like this. There we go. And as a result, you will actually miss them if they're way too close. But that has been minimized, so it's not as much of a problem as it used to be. The first game in the collection is it feels good. It feels very nostalgic for me. That's why I'm going to be doing a let's play of it now that I finished it. And if you knew everything from the previous games, you know everything in here. The new skill points in that game are not bad. There's a few that are quite tough because it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but for the most part, a lot of them work very well. Spyro 2 is still the best game in the series because it has the most variety and has the most diversity in terms of locales. Spyro Year of the Dragon is still a noticeable step down, in my opinion, from the other ones, because especially the level design, which a vast majority of the levels are literally just circles. They're just rings that circle about each other, so I always know in what direction and in what way the level's going to play out. In terms of differences between the different games, I've noticed that, unfortunately, the games seem to get more and more unstable as you go throughout them. I had no problems with Spyro 1. Spyro 2 had some weird glitches that were weird, but I could kind of write off. Spyro 3 had things where I had a point where I was doing one of the skateboard races and it literally didn't count one of my laps. I've had a thing where the game crashed on me. I've had a sequence where I was trying to fly up to this ledge and I went through the ledge. I've had sequences where the game booted me out of a level after I'd done this weird kind of landing where I guess the game didn't want me to go. I have no idea. It's strange and it's unfortunate, especially for those who do like the third game, which, not that it's bad, but people who think that the third game is the best one, I do not understand you. It's filled with gimmicks and the same level of design, and they clearly were running out of ideas. But overall, it's great. I would highly recommend that you pick it up if you can. But just be aware that there are a few problems towards the end. And I say this as someone who played it on a normal PlayStation 4. I don't have a Pro, so I don't know if maybe you get a better performance with the Pro or not. But regardless of those glitches, those bugs, it's not game killing. And if you're somebody who yearns for a collectathon type of game, I think you can't do much worse than Spyro, because Spyro is a collectathon game, but it doesn't go overboard the way that some games for the Nintendo 64 days did, like your Donkey Kong 64s, or maybe even to some extent Banjo-Tooie, even though I like that game. Moving on, I played a little bit of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I ended up stopping playing it because I think I'm going to do some sort of a marathon with Call of Duty later on this year, now that I've been picking up some Call of Duty games like Infinite Warfare, which I showed you before. Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2, I rented these from Gamefly, and I've been wanting to get these games because I'm a big fan of Mega Man X. That is my favorite Mega Man series, not the original, not Legends, not Zero, not Battle Network. it's Mega Man X. But what scared me off was I started hearing about how apparently there was horrible input lag in the game. So I rented it, and they are absolutely correct. Holy crap, the input lag in these collections is not excusable. It's actually worse on the Super Nintendo games, where I would argue the series was its best. The game that I felt played the best was, oddly enough, Mega Man 7, which is easily the worst one in the franchise, except for maybe 6. Another worst thing about it is the only ones that were somewhat acceptable were the PlayStation games, Mega Man X4, 5, and 6. Mega Man X4 and 5 you can buy right now as a PlayStation 1 classic, and it plays infinitely better than it. And then the original ones on the Super Nintendo you can get via the Wii U Virtual Console. So, unless you want X7 and X8, which also doesn't play that bad either, these collections are kind of a bust because of the input lag. It's also weird that they broke it up 1 and 4 through, and then 5 and 8. I would have thought that they would have been put together into just one collection. And even the extras that they give you in the game are not really broken up that way. I don't know who's in charge of putting together the Mega Man X collection, but they did a very poor job, and I can't really recommend picking up these collections unless you get them really cheap, and I mean like $5 each, because that's really all they're worth. They're a shoddy port, unfortunately. Next on the list, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Classic. I played this during Thanksgiving when I went over to my mother's house. They were watching some movie, it was boring, so I just brought up my phone and started playing Sonic 2. I mean, it's Sonic 2. It plays alright on the phone. I kind of wish I had a controller, but, I mean, it worked in a pinch. Sonic 2 is fun. Not much more to say. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. I had rented it before I had bought Infinite Warfare, just to make sure that there was nothing wrong with it. And, no, it plays fine. Just went through the first couple of missions in single player. Nothing to complain about. It is what it is. So that's why I ended up buying it. Overwatch Legendary Edition. I played it just to test it out. I did a couple of matches online. It's Overwatch. I played it before on the beta. Way back right before it came out in 2015. I want to say. Maybe 2016. Anyway, it's still fun. I don't really know the meta or anything though, so I put it down pretty quickly. It's really just another game to add to the collection until I decide to really get into it. And I might be too late, but I remember playing in the beta and it was a lot of fun. So maybe we'll get to that eventually. Final Fantasy IX, I was playing that and kind of getting into it until I got stuck on a boss fight. That's another game that's in my backlog that I really need to get to. I did get further than I had before. I'm now at the part where gosh, let me see, what did I do? Let's see, I have the princess. I found her after the forest thing. We got through there, we got into town, I completed the festival or whatever, but then I got kicked out. And I went through a cavern. I got stuck on the boss that was like a water type boss or something, and it was because I don't have my healer with me anymore. But then, did we get reunited? I don't think so. I think she's still running around with Steiner. Garnet, is that her name? I can't remember. But yeah, point is I played a bit of that game, but then I just kind of ended up moving on, which unfortunately happens with me with RPGs. Alice Madness Returns, as you may know, I have my playthrough here on the channel, and I played through it, so yeah, that's something else I played, and you already saw it already if you have been checking up on my channel. You saw that I beat the game and all that. Last Madness Returns, it's not a game for everyone. It's kind of glitchy, it's unpolished, but it has wonderful atmosphere to it, and the platforming is still fun despite its jankiness. I recommend getting it if you can find it on a discount. NBA 2K Playgrounds 2 for the PlayStation 4. Okay, I rented this game from Gamefly. I played all of one match, maybe two. I think it was like 2.5. NBA 2K gamers, is this what you have to deal with now? I turned on the game and it immediately gave me a deck to open, like a deck of cards to open from like a pack, and then I got like 8 characters and some other crap that I didn't know about. And that's literally all that I could use in the game. This fucking game has all the NBA league teams, but I can't play as any of them except for the ones that I got from that deck. Is this literally how the game is now? Because this is bullshit. If it's not, then let me know. If you can like go to any team and pick any character you want, like have at least an exhibition match or put them through a season, then okay, but I couldn't even do that in this game. It's ridiculous. And then even the gameplay itself was fine, but it was rather boring, and that should not be the case for a game like NBA 2K Playgrounds, which is supposed to be a successor to like NBA Jam and NBA Street. So I don't know what's going on with that. After that, I remember feeling like I wanted to play something old, so I booted up my Sega Saturn and I went through Sonic 3D Blast, beat the game. It's not a long game, it's not a hard game. Got all the Chaos Emeralds, so I got the last fight and everything like that. It's fun. I would like to let's play that game sometime this year, so maybe that'll happen. I also went through Samurai Showdown. I mentioned before that I had bought it on the PlayStation 4, so I went through the first game. Very difficult game. I don't remember Samurai Showdown being that difficult. As a matter of fact, I let's played through the arcade mode on my channel like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. It feels a lot more difficult now, so I don't know if maybe I had the difficulty at a different level or what happened, but very hard game. Tales of Vesperia. I started playing through this game on the Xbox 360, which I have in preparation for the definitive edition, which is coming out this month. I believe it's next week from the time that I'm recording this, which is on the 3rd. And I was playing through it, and I've never finished Tales of Vesperia, but I was having fun. But the problem is, though, is that I kind of came to the realization of, why am I playing through this when the new one is coming out? And the answer was because I already have the game. Why would I buy the game again, even though it's the definitive edition and has extra content? Why would I buy it again, and for $50 no less, when I already have it, even if it's a slightly lesser edition? So probably not going to be picking up that game now, and I'm probably going to get to it whenever I get to it, because I ended up putting the game aside for other newer games. But Tales of Vesperia is still a lot of fun. I like the characters in the story. The combat, I mean, if you play the Tales game, then you know how the combat is. It's very similar to Tales of Symphonia, and just like how that's similar to some of the newer games like Tales of Bresteria and Tales of what's the other one? Zestiria. It's you can order around your team and tell them what to do. You control your own character manually, and you have attack buttons, and you run around like a field on your own. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's just another Tales game. What really sets it apart though are the characters, which I really like. I like Yuri. I like Rapide. I like how smart Alec. Oh god, what was her name? She's the scientist character. Well, I can't remember right now, but the point is though is that it's got a good story and it's got good characters. And I just left off at a time when we were about to start our own guild, and it was right after I'd done something very controversial. Let's leave it at that. Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories. I had this idea that maybe I could play through the rest of the Kingdom Hearts games before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. Then I started playing Chain of Memories and I went, oh my god, this game is bad. The outer world where you have to walk through is just a chore. There's no reason for it to be there. And then the way that the combat works with the cards, I cannot stand. I cannot stand doing this with cards when I could just be hitting an attack button. I really can. And then finally I decided that even though I don't like this game, there's no way that I'm going to be able to give each of the Kingdom Hearts games their fair shake. Especially if I have to 100% complete them, because these games like to give you real meaty story bits once you 100% the games. There's no way I'm going to being able to do that for 1, Chain of Memories, 2, 358 by 2, whatever the frick days, Recoded, Dream Drop Distance, and Birth by Sleep. Maybe not in that order, but still. So I decided that I'm just not going to pick up Kingdom Hearts 3 when it comes out, and I'll just get to this stuff when I get to this stuff, because there's way too much to get to, and I'm not foaming at the mouth for this stuff enough for me to want to, like, marathon it. Next up, I played Fallout 76. Rented that from Gamefly. That was smart, because, oh my god, that game is boring. In terms of glitches, I don't think I played long enough to really get through and get some of the really bad glitches, but I mean, I did phase through a wall at some point. Fallout 76. I played some of Psychonauts. I played almost the entire game before I started getting distracted with the newer games that I got, that I was telling you about, right? Psychonauts is still a fantastic game. I will say though that when you get to the second half of the game inside the asylum grounds, it does slow down. Specifically when you're going with the second part of that island, the one where with the painter and the guy who thinks he's Napoleon. The Napoleon level in particular, my god, there's so many goddamn figments in that level. It's too much. That level is too much. This is strange though, because right before that you go through like Gloria's level, which is okay with the stage and everything. It's not complicated at all. There's hardly anywhere for you to go. And then, of course, the Milkman Conspiracy. That level is epic. And that's a lot of fun. And then the first 3 levels or so of that game are fantastic as well. There's just kind of a lull towards the end. God of War. Played a little bit of God of War, not a lot. I only played about 3 hours of it before I decided to give time to the other games. There we go. Yeah, there we go. But I already know why people are making the joke of calling everyone boy. My first initial thoughts of that game are the combat seems repetitive. Maybe I need to get more abilities and all that, but it kind of feels like I'm just mashing R1, occasionally throwing R2 in there. Maybe I need to throw the axe more while I'm up close, because I know that you can like do a combo, then throw the axe towards them, then beat the hell out of them with your hands, and then call it back and something. So I'm sure there's something else to it, but right now it feels a little repetitive. It seems very linear. If that's how the game is, that's fine. I also feel though that maybe there's something more that we should be doing. The first boss fight, well, I guess technically it's the second boss fight against the stranger. That was extremely cool though. Even if it was all cinematic whooshy whooshy and all that stuff, I still feel like I had agency in what was going on, because they did give you a point where you could just beat the hell out of your opponent. But yeah, it's a good game. I'll probably get back to it after I'm done with Red Dead Redemption, which is what I'm playing right now. I'll talk about that in the next episode of My Gaming Landscape. Assassin's Creed Origins. I rented this game from Gamefly, and I still have it because I actually quite enjoy it, even though Ladies and gentlemen, this is just an Assassin's Creed game. It's not different. Don't believe what people are telling you is like, oh, they reinvented it and it's got all this new stuff and everything. They made it so you could swap in and out your gear and actually does something for you stat-wise, which they already kind of were doing ever since, I think, Unity. With you getting different clothes and stuff like that. Hell, actually, Assassin's Creed 2 had stuff like that. It's a lot more in depth in Origins, but it doesn't really change the fact that all you're doing is sneaking around and killing people. And then just doing that in regard to fetch quests. Now, I'm somebody who kind of finds Assassin's Creed to be kind of nice for my OCD. But that doesn't mean that it's different. It just means that the formula has stayed the same. They made little tweaks to just keep the formula fresh for a little bit longer. That's kind of my jam, but I understand why that wouldn't be yours. And if you played an Assassin's Creed game before, and you're wondering if the newer games, Origins and Odyssey, are better about the kind of monotony that those games had, the answer, for the most part, I don't know about Odyssey because I haven't played it, but at least as Origins is concerned, the answer is no. It is not different. It's the same gameplay loop. If it works for you, it does. If it doesn't, it still won't. Finally, we're going to talk about the last couple of things that I played. I'm just going to bundle these in because they're all from the PlayStation, or not PlayStation, SNES Classic, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Kirby's Dream Course, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario World, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, Donkey Kong Country, Contra 3 The Alien Wars, Super Castlevania 4, and Super Punch-Out! All these games are off of this Super Nintendo Classic. I did not play any of these games for very long. I just kind of, got the SNES Classic on Christmas Day, and then I just hooked it up and just started randomly going into games and playing them. And like, yeah, it's what I remember. Oh, I've never played this game before. Like, for example, Kirby's Dream Course, I've never played. And I have very little experience. I have played them, but I don't have the memories that I do with games such as Contra 3 and Super Castlevania 4. But I definitely have like the experience with Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I used to play that with even my mother. And as a matter of fact, on Christmas Day, she wanted to actually try to play these games. And she played Street Fighter 2 Turbo, didn't do too bad. And then she tried a couple of other ones as well, such as Super Mario Kart and Super Mario World. She just couldn't get it though. The last game I think I'll talk about here is the last game that I played this past year in December, which is Yakuza 0. God damn it, I love the Yakuza games. I love just kind of walking around and finding people to help, and then just beating the hell out of whoever I need to in order to do it. I've been a producer on a set in that game, as opposed to just a Yakuza. And I've also just helped somebody become a better dominatrix. The Yakuza games are freaking weird. They're like a Grand Theft Auto that does not take itself too seriously. It has a smaller map, which is good because it allows them to pack more things into that place as a result, so it doesn't feel nearly as empty as some of those games sometimes do. They just go inside of stores, and even though interaction with those elements are limited, at least it allows you to do it, and it still gives the game a sense of realness. There's people walking around and all that kind of stuff. The story itself is always good. It's always very melodramatic and very serious, kind of like a Godfather type movie or something like that, but it's always so much intrigue in the way that these places work. I put it down because I decided that I think it's time for me to play some of the games that people like. As somebody who wants to be in the video game industry, I feel like maybe I should play this. That's why I started playing it this year. But then there's also me, the other side of me that's like, screw it, just play some more Yakuza. That game is kind of better. And, I mean, spoilers for my thoughts on Red Dead, but right now I kind of like Yakuza more. But I have not put enough time into Red Dead, not nearly, to really say. I've only put in an hour or two. Yakuza I've put, I think, 8 hours, so. yeah, it's a fun game. If you can get any Yakuza game, because quite frankly they're all kind of the same. The only real difference is some of the mechanics in each of the game change, and the story is always completely different. Get any of them. You can have Yakuza 0, you can have Yakuza Kiwami, Kiwami 2, 6 just came out. My guess is maybe don't pick up that one just because it's the latest entry in the series. And 0 and Yakuza Kiwami are good places to start because they're the first game in the franchise and then a prologue, you know? Because the story does matter in these games, to be perfectly honest. But really, you'll be good with any of the games, and they're a good starting point. Specifically, Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza 0 are good starting points. I started at 4 on the PlayStation 3, but I'm okay. Get a Yakuza game. And if anything, from all these games that I've been talking about in this episode, my top picks would probably be for you to pick up Spyro Reignited Trilogy, because it's really fantastic, and Yakuza 0. I think those are the top games here. The only other one that comes to mind here is, I don't know, maybe Final Fantasy 9, but I didn't really put enough time into that. I think I'm just rambling at this point, so I think I'm going to end this off here. In the next episode, I'm going to be covering only 1 month. It'll be January, this current month. That'll be coming out in February. Hopefully, it'll be more than just me looking at this camera and you know, rambling. I hope to have more in-depth things to talk about. I was going kind of fast in this video since I had so much to talk about, and then I hope to also have some footage that I clipped out from my gameplay, or stuff that maybe I recorded from my phone to go like this or whatever, to show you, to kind of keep this more interesting. But this is kind of a pilot. Let me know what you think in the comments below of what you think of this kind of video. Just another way of me trying to do something different with this channel, see if people like it better. With that being said, I'm Colorwind. This has been my gaming landscape for November and December of 2018, and I will see you in February for January of 2019. Peace and love, gamers and players. Colorwind out.